The kitchen counter at 6 in the morning is a very quiet place. It is just you, the hum of the refrigerator, the smell of the coffee brewing, and that little digital meter sitting there waiting for you. Most mornings throughout your life, you probably never gave a second thought to your blood. But when you hit a certain age and your doctor starts using words like pre-diabetic or insulin resistance, that little plastic device starts looking less like a medical tool and more like a judge holding a gavel. You prick your finger, you wait those agonizing few seconds, and whatever number pops up on that screen dictates how you are going to feel about your own body for the rest of the day. If you have been dealing with blood sugar issues, or if you have been getting those stern looks over the rim of your doctor's glasses during your annual checkups, you know exactly the kind of morning routine I am talking about. It is a heavy piece of luggage to carry around. It is the constant math you have to do in your head before every single meal. It is looking at a plate of food at a family gathering and seeing a math equation instead of dinner. I spent a good portion of my working years in community health education, trying to help folks understand exactly these kinds of chronic conditions. My job was to take the thick, complicated medical manuals and translate them into plain English for working families who did not have time for jargon. You would think that background would make me immune to the panic when my own numbers started creeping up a few years ago. I can assure you it did not. Knowing exactly how an engine works does not make it any less stressful when your own dashboard warning lights start flashing red. My father was a factory man back in Columbus, Ohio. He worked hard, came home tired, and completely ignored his body until things broke down so badly they could not be ignored anymore. That was the way men of his generation handled things. They treated their bodies like company property that belonged to someone else, working it until the gears stripped. I watched him pay a terrible price for that kind of stubbornness, and I promised myself early on I would not make the same mistake. But creeping blood sugar is not a sudden break. It is a quiet kind of rust. It does not hurt when it starts. It just slowly compromises the pipes and the wiring of your system over years until one day the structural damage is done. I remember the specific afternoon the reality of this really hit me. I was sitting on my back porch here in Scottsdale. The heat of the Arizona sun was just starting to break for the evening, casting long shadows across the yard. I had just gotten off the phone with my daughter Laura. She is a registered nurse over in Phoenix, and she sees the end results of uncontrolled blood sugar every single day on her hospital floor. We were talking about a neighbor of mine who had just lost a toe to neuropathy. Just a toe, people say, as if it is a small thing. But Laura explained the mechanics of it to me in a way that made the hair on my arm stand up. She explained how excess sugar in the blood acts like microscopic shards of glass, slowly scraping and damaging the tiny blood vessels over decades, destroying the circulation furthest from the heart. That conversation stayed with me, sitting heavy in my chest. It felt like I was looking down a road I absolutely did not want to walk down. After 60, the small things are what matter the most. The body does not ask twice in the same way. I realized I needed something more than just avoiding the obvious sweets or skipping dessert. I needed a daily habit, something small and mechanical that I could control in my own kitchen, something that would act as a buffer for my system against the food I was eating. I found the answer sitting right inside my own kitchen pantry. It was in a glass jar that my wife Margaret used to keep stocked for her baking. Margaret passed away in 2019, but I still keep the pantry organized mostly the way she left it. It brings a certain order to the house. She used to put these tiny, hard brown seeds into her morning oatmeal and into the muffins she baked on Sundays. Flax seeds. At the time, I thought it was just a texture thing, something to add a bit of crunch. I did not realize she was keeping a foundational piece of biological maintenance right there on the middle shelf. I started looking into the actual mechanics of what flaxseed does inside the human body. Not the marketing talk, not the fancy labels at the health food store, but the actual biological plumbing. What I found made so much sense that I felt entirely foolish for not paying attention to it decades ago. Blood sugar spikes happen when the food you eat breaks down too quickly in your stomach and floods your bloodstream with glucose all at once. It is like a flash flood hitting a dry arroyo here in the desert. The system simply cannot handle the sudden violent volume of water, and it causes erosion and damage along the banks. Flaxseed fundamentally changes the environment of your digestion to prevent that flood. These little seeds are packed with a very specific kind of soluble fiber. When this particular fiber meets water in your stomach, it does not just dissolve and disappear. It forms a thick, heavy, gel-like substance. I want you to picture pouring a gallon of water into a bucket of dry sand, and then picture pouring that same water into a thick, dense sponge. The gel created by the flaxseed acts exactly like that sponge. It wraps around the carbohydrates and the sugars in your meal, trapping them and slowing down the entire process of digestion. Instead of a flash flood of sugar hitting your blood all at once, forcing your body to panic, you get a slow, steady, controlled release. It turns a fire hose into a slow drip irrigation system. Your body actually has the time it needs to process the sugar. Your pancreas does not have to go into emergency mode and pump out massive amounts of insulin to deal with a crisis. The internal machinery gets to work at a normal, sustainable pace without the wear and tear. My son Daniel, who is a physical therapist up in Denver, came down to visit a while back. He walked into the kitchen, poured himself a cup of coffee, and noticed the glass jar of seeds sitting on my counter. He nodded when he saw it. He told me that a lot of his older patients, the ones who manage their weight and their joint inflammation the best, use the exact same strategy. But he also pointed out a detail that I had completely missed at first. It is a detail that changes whether this actually works or whether you are just wasting your money. If you just take a spoonful of whole flax seeds and swallow them, you're getting absolutely no benefit. The outer shell of a flaxseed is built by nature to survive harsh conditions. It is incredibly tough. If you eat them whole, they will pass entirely through your digestive system without breaking down at all. You will not get the fiber, you will not get the gel, and you will not get the protection. You have to break the hull. You have to grind them. So, I went to the hardware store and bought a cheap little electric coffee grinder. I keep it right next to the jar. Every single morning without fail, I take exactly 1 tablespoon of whole flax seeds. I put them in the grinder, press the button for about 10 seconds, and turn them into a fine powder. That simple mechanical act breaks open the tough outer shell and exposes that vital soluble fiber, along with the healthy omega fats hidden inside. I take that fresh ground powder and I stir it right into my morning oatmeal, or sometimes just into a tall glass of water if I am heading out for an early walk and not eating a big breakfast. It has a mild, earthy taste, nothing overpowering, but the effect it has on the rest of my day is profound. When I check my numbers now, the spikes are smoothed out. The sharp peaks and valleys that used to leave me feeling exhausted and reaching for a chair by 2 in the afternoon are gone. My energy stays level, like a car cruising at a steady speed on the highway, instead of constantly hitting the gas and slamming on the brakes. This is not a miracle cure, and anyone who tells you there is a miracle cure for aging is trying to sell you something. If you eat an entire pie, a tablespoon of ground seeds is not going to save you from the consequences. But that is not how we build health at our age anyway. We build it through small, unglamorous, consistent actions. We build it by understanding exactly how the machine works and giving it the right oil every single day. I am not a doctor, and you should always talk to yours before you change your routines or your diet. But I can tell you what I see in my own life. The doctors look at my charts now and they nod. They tell me whatever I'm doing, I should keep doing it. They do not always ask about the jar on my counter, and that is perfectly fine. The modern medical system is built to fix things after they break down. It is our job to maintain the foundation before it cracks. You might be thinking that a single tablespoon of seeds cannot possibly make that much of a difference against a force as serious as blood sugar. I understand that skepticism completely. I felt it too. But the truth is, independence is protected in the small habits. The massive medical interventions, the surgeries, the complicated medications that alter your life, those happen because years of small daily damages were allowed to accumulate unnoticed. By changing the daily environment of your digestion, you are stopping the damage at the source. Do not wait until you feel the symptoms to start paying attention to this. That is what I learned late in my own life, and it is a very hard lesson to swallow. Damage to your blood vessels does not announce itself until it is often too late to reverse it easily. The time to reinforce the pipes in your house is before they start leaking behind the drywall. You have the capacity to take control of these small variables right now. It does not require an expensive gym membership, it does not require a complex program, and it does not require completely turning your life upside down. It requires a glass jar, a cheap grinder, and 10 seconds of your morning routine. The independence you want to keep for the next 10 or 20 years is being decided by the choices you make in your kitchen today. You still have time to make the right ones. Your body will respond if you give it the right tools and a little bit of respect. Take care of your foundation, take care of yourself, and I will see you next time.